your favorite social worker. Welcome back. I'm here to encourage you to pursue the smile by prioritizing the Lord, your physical health, and persistent education. We are here today to study leadership through a biblical lens. We're going through the book of Joshua. And currently we are in chapter 23. Yesterday, we were in chapter 22, and basically the Eastern tribes were returning home, and we talked about how miscommunication can happen, how you need to address dissent in your groups as a leader. You need to be able to anticipate, identify, and sufficiently address people and areas that cause dissent within the group that you are leading. Also, when managing conflict, it is vital that you go to the table ready, willing, and able to hear all sides and not come with your own perception, your own biases, which could make things worse. But it could be that you come to the table, you actually agree with what the other party is saying, or you come to a better understanding. All right. You're coming to the table to diffuse a situation, not to impose your own will or dominance or authority. Because at the end of the day, as far as leadership is concerned, we want to help guide people to the predetermined goal. And there is a strategic way to accomplish this when you have multiple people. And you could be leading your family, you could be leading a classroom, you could be a manager, you could be leading yourself. How do I get myself to this goal? Many people don't have that skill. So that's why we're going over this. We're now in the book of Joshua, chapter 23. We'll be talking about Joshua's farewell to Israel. And then after that is chapter 24. And we will be done at that point. So we'll probably announce the next book on Friday, which will be what is the gospel? We'll start going over the gospel. Anyway, I'm 3+Kei. Please make sure that you subscribe for more content and put your name and where you're from below in the comments. And I'll say a quick prayer. Lord, thank you for waking us up today, giving us the energy and focus to absorb your word this morning. Just as we go out throughout the day, Lord, please just give us peace and comfort so that we're relaxed and regulated as we deal with people, so that we can better serve them and better be a vessel for your love. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. It's always that comfort and that peace. We want to make sure we're in service to other people. What are we doing if we're not serving? Serving ourselves. That's not biblical. All right. Verse 23. Excuse me. Sorry, that got a little Cardi B came out at me for a second. All right. We are in the book of Joshua, chapter 23, verse 1, Joshua's farewell to Israel. After a long time had passed and the Lord had given Israel rest from all their enemies around them, Joshua, by then a very old man, summoned all Israel, the elders, leaders, judges, and officials, and said to them, I am very old. You yourselves have seen everything the Lord your God has done to all these nations for your sake. It was the Lord your God who fought for you. Verse 4. Remember how I have allotted as an inheritance for your tribes all the lands of the nations that remain, the nations I conquered between the Jordan and the Mediterranean Sea in the west. The Lord your God himself will push them out for your sake. He will drive them out before you, and he will take possession of their land, as the Lord your God promised you. Commentary. Some of the land that Joshua had assigned to the various tribes remained unconquered. So that means the Canaanites were still in the area a little bit. Israel's gradual occupation of the land had an ecological reason, a military reason, and a theological reason. Israel's ensuing unfaithfulness delayed the settlement process by several centuries. Instead of driving out the remaining Canaanites, Israel absorbed them, bringing God's people even greater temptations to unfaithfulness. Joshua knew this to be a real danger. We need to root out sinful influences in our lives rather than allow them to lead us into sinful practices. If you have people around you, we're supposed to be in the world, not of the world, right? We bring our Christ forwardness to the world. Let's say there's 5 of us operating in that way. And then we allow 2 people who, one is a persistent liar, the other one is a contrarian. They just want to disagree with everything. If for nothing else, that can and probably will affect the morale of the group. Once it affects the morale of the group, now the other 5 were operating in frustration. Some of us might be praying for those 2. Some of us are operating in frustration. But because we were an original 5 with our Christ forwardness, the ones of us that are frustrated are now spending time talking about that frustration. It doesn't do well to allow to consistently engage with people who are not on the same path as you. That's why it's so important as a leader to make sure everybody is on the same page. Consistency can really breed like loyalty too. Everybody needs to be on the same page of one accord. Mob as a unit, as I like to say. We need to mob as a unit. Otherwise, if there's no unit, there's no mobbing. We cannot move forward if we're not of one accord. Look at all sloppy. You ever hear a band like a children's band? Because a little bit, the children are kind of like, I'm going to do what I want to do. I want to blow the horn right here. And then the music sounds crazy. Now, you ever hear a professional orchestra, a professional symphony, where everyone is on one accord? Beautiful. It's beautiful. Everyone is on one accord. They're mobbing as a unit. That's what you are as a leader, getting everybody to that symphonic measure. All right, verse 5. Verse 6. Be very strong. Be careful to obey all that is written in the book of the law of Moses without turning aside to the right or to the left. Do not associate with these nations that remain among you. Do not invoke the names of their gods or swear by them. You must not serve them or bow down to them. Verse 8, but you are to hold fast to the Lord your God as you have until now. Commentary. Joshua was dying, so he called the leaders of the nation together to give them his final words of encouragement and instruction. His whole message can be summarized in this verse. Hold fast to the Lord your God. Joshua has been a living example of these words, and he wanted that to be his legacy. For what do you want to be remembered? And what do you want to pass on to those who you leave behind? You can leave them nothing better than the encouragement to hold on to God and the example of a person who did. Be a leader. That will be your legacy. 3+Kei ran with the Lord. You, Johnny, who's watching this, Samantha, who's watching this, Bernice, your legacy is not your money. People, you leave your money, they're going to squander it. Your legacy is steadfastness to the Lord for others to emulate. All right, verse 9. The Lord, this is Joshua, the Lord has driven out before you great and powerful nations to this day. To this day, no one has been able to withstand you. One of you routs 1,000 because the Lord your God fights for you, just as he promised. So be very careful to love the Lord your God. But if you turn away and ally yourselves with the survivors of these nations that remain among you, and if you intermarry with them and associate with them, then you may be sure that the Lord your God will no longer drive out these nations before you. Instead, they will become snares and traps for you, whips on your back, and thorns in your eyes until you perish from the good land which the Lord your God has given you. Commentary for 6 through 13. Joshua knew the nation's weak spots. Before dying, he called the people together and gave commands to help them where they were most likely to slip. Number 1, follow all that is written in the book of the law of Moses without turning aside. Number 2, don't associate with the people remaining in the land or worship their gods. And number 3, don't intermarry with them. These temptations were right in their backyard. Our associations and relationships can be temptations to us as well. It was wise to identify our weak spots before we break down. Let's run that back. It's wise to identify our weak spots before we break down. Then we can develop strategies to overcome these temptations instead of being overcome by them. You know, you like to smoke a little weed. Don't go to that place. You know, you smoke weed and then you can't study right. And what you're supposed to be doing is be in school right now. You're supposed to be getting a degree right now. And you do have a taste for weed. Okay, so you do. These people, your friends, your homies, they be smoking weed. Now, they don't offer it to you, but you still know if you go over there, you'll be tempted. As my friend says, I've said it before, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. You got to be mindful of that. All right. And then finally, verse 14. Now I am going. Oh, wait. Yeah. Okay. Verse 14. Now I am going to go the way of all the earth. You know with all your heart and soul that not one of all the good promises the Lord your God has gave you has failed. Let's run that back. That was a complicated sentence. Now I am about to go the way of the earth. You know with all your heart and soul that not one of all the good promises the Lord your God has gave you has failed. That was worded crazy. Every promise has been fulfilled. No one has failed. But just as all the good things the Lord your God has promised you have come to you, so he will bring on you all the evil things he has threatened until the Lord your God has destroyed you from this good land he has given you. Basically, what he said he's going to do and what you have coming to you is going to come. We could have just said that. Verse 16, if you violate the covenant of the Lord your God, which he commanded you, and go and serve other gods and bow down to them, the Lord's anger will burn against you and you will quickly perish from the good land he has given you. Okay. Commentary. This chilling prediction about the consequences of intermarriage with the Canaanite nations eventually became a reality. Numerous stories in the book of Judges showed what the Israelites had to suffer because of their failure to follow God wholeheartedly. God was supremely loving and patient with his people, just as he is with us today. But we must not confuse his patience with us as approval or indifference to our sin. Be careful about demanding your own way because it might have unintended, painful consequences. On the topic of marriage and intermarrying, the way I believe it is put in the New Testament is you want to be evenly yoked. That means, and forgive me, I'm not a farmer, but we're getting the farm language here, the agricultural context. A cow or whatever, donkey, you know what I mean, pulls the thing behind him, behind the donkey or the cow, and there's two wagons, let's just say, two wagons yoked, that means attached to the cow or the donkey. One of the wagons has 100 pounds of something, the other wagon has 10 pounds of something. That's going to make it off kilter for the donkey. When you're engaging with somebody, marriage, friendship, relationship, you want to make sure you're evenly yoked. So there's 100 pounds of hay in one basket, that's you, and there's 100 pounds in the other basket, that's the other party as well. That way you can get to where you're going and there's less friction and less turmoil and less struggle for the donkey. Less struggle. You want to be evenly yoked. Anyway, I am 3+Kei. I'm your favorite favorite social worker, encouraging you to pursue the smile by prioritizing the Lord, your physical health, and persistent education. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for more content. This is what I talk about. This was the book of Joshua. Tomorrow we'll be in chapter 24, and we're going to sew this thing up, baby. Do me a favor and have a wonderful day. Make sure you pursue the smile, and I will talk to you later.